You have a business plan? Have you written that down? How you gonna get there? What is your business gonna be? If you don't know where you're going, how you're getting there, is that really a goal? Life doesn't happen by happenstance. It's the actions that we take, the decisions that we make, that controls what we do. So we have to be very, very intentional about what we do. Follow the SMART model. That's the best way to go. SMART model. S, be specific. M, measurable. Is it measurable? A, attainable. Is it attainable? The R, realistic. Does it make sense? The last one, time-based. It has to have time. These critical keys help you put the work in.
Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning, world. It is a beautiful Saturday, and I'm excited to be back here with the conversation with the guys. Build Your Best Life is always doing it in a great way, and today we have a thought-provoking subject matter that, listen, go ahead and share the word, share the link, and encourage someone. As a matter of fact, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and tag somebody, because today we're talking about unhealthy habits to avoid. Let me say that again. Unhealthy habits to avoid. So I'm joined with some of the most distinguished gentlemen on the planet, and these guys, they always deliver, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, when we start thinking about this whole subject, when we start thinking about unhealthy habits to avoid, you got to think about how do we raise our young men. So gentlemen, good morning. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good morning. You're doing great. Doing good.
Excellent. In the words of Coach Deborah, good morning. In the words of Coach Deborah D. Smith, it takes 1 second to ruin a good reputation, while it takes blood, sweat, tears, and years to rebuild one. We're going to dive right into this subject with Coach Dr. Wilborn and talk about, young men today and these unhealthy habits that are passed down generationally. And sometimes we see social standards just shifting in such an awkward way. What are some of the most, what I will say is destructive habits that you've seen young men pick up today that's just, this is not good. When you look at it, you're a father, you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're a leader. Let's start with you, Dr. Wilborn.
Okay, good morning to you. And, to answer your question on that one, the most that I've seen that's very, very detrimental would be lacking ambition, because I've been around so many young men and women, that, I see a lot in them, but it's like they just don't want to do what they know they can do. A lot of them are lazy. A lot of them just don't want to get out and show exactly what they can bring to the table of life. You know what I'm saying? So I see a lot of that lacking ambition. And to me, I think that's a big problem, because when you're lacking ambition, you're sleeping on yourself.
Wow.
You're sleeping, and you know what I'm saying? You are sleeping on yourself. And people can see that. You have a lot of very talented, intelligent young people out today, and they just don't want to do. So lacking ambition will be one of my pet peeves. Like I said, I've coached over 1,000 kids. I've been out here for over 30 something years coaching, and well. And after sitting down, talking with them, trying to pick their brain in the whole 9 yards, and should be one of the top ones for me that I feel that's detrimental and that will hurt youngsters and, in the long run.
Dr. Levette, dive in, man. Share with us your thought. You heard Dr. Wilborn.
Well,
Now,
to answer that question, we talking. Yeah, to answer that question, from my standpoint, we're talking about unhealthy habits. A lot of things that we see kids pick up on early is things that like smoking, profanity. All of those are two big things. They think that profanity makes them a man. So as they start to grow, they hear other men saying it, and it sounds like it's a power thing for them. Like it shows you're a man by being able to use profanity. And then smoking and drinking, all of them things like that, they think that is all part of being a man, but part of being a man has nothing to do with none of that. None of that will make you a man, because none of that is going to be tools that you're going to need as far as your success in life. What you're going to need as success in life is you're going to need to pick up good habits from having a great mentor, someone that can help you guide your life in the right direction and give you some good, be that model, that Coach Deborah Smith talked about in the book, being that modeling before them what it is that's better than all of that stuff, and showing them that, hey, just because you can curse, that don't mean anything. Just because you can drink and smoke don't mean nothing.
So good, so good. Deacon Dan, you've been in law enforcement over the years. You've been in ministry, serving from the church leadership standpoint. You're a father. What's your whole view on, detrimental habits that has the negative impact on young men today that we need to look at?
Well, my view is lack of self-control. You see, if I find so many of these young men that have these problems because they don't have no self-control, and they don't look back at themselves. They don't, alcohol, even computers, the things that are on the computers these days. And if they don't have self-control, then they can get into a real problem. They can get into a real problem because they don't know how to handle situations that come upon them. If you got a situation that come upon you and you have self-control, then you can take care of that situation without picking up bad habits.
So good.
So I'm wondering, I really appreciate the young men. You got to have self-control. You got to have self-control, because if you don't, these bad habits that you pick up, alcohol, drug abuse, even these smartphones, become dependable. So these some of the things that you got to have self-control.
Wow. Let me ask you guys this. I know all of you guys have gone through all of the different stages of manhood to become who you are today. I remember when I was but 19, probably 18, I took this girl out. I went to meet her at her house, Dr. Levette, and I didn't come out of the car. I'm from the streets. And I ain't knocking on the door. I didn't come out of the car to go inside to hail the family. I sat in the car waiting for her. And well, when she came to the car, she had me waiting for about 15 minutes, and we pulled off to go to the movies. She said, you're soft, right? I said, what you mean? He said, my last boyfriend would have knocked me in my head had I had him waiting. She said, I wanted to see what you were going to do. And so that was the last movie I took her to, because I was like, I'm not going to create a habit of hitting a woman because that's what she's accustomed to. I want to ask you guys, how did you navigate avoiding disrespectful habits over the years, and how are you passing that on to the next generation of young men that are around you to ensure that disrespectful habit, one, wasn't a part of who you are? I didn't want that to be a part of who I was, and additionally having to pass that on to our sons and the boys we mentor. What's your view there? Let's go back to you, Dr. Wilborn. You want to start it off?
Yeah, I started off. I would say, for one, they haven't grown up. That's the first thing. Okay, they haven't matured enough, and most likely they didn't have a role model. So that's one of some of the things that comes to my mind when you're talking about young men disrespecting young women. Now, other than that, I would say because it's a learned behavior, or they've probably seen that a whole lot. They've seen bad things, and it's something that they picked up, and they feel like, hey, this is the right thing to do. I'm the man, and by me being the man, I gotta be forceful and tactful, when it comes to young ladies in the whole 9 yards, and that's what they like. And I'm gonna tell you something that's very, very, it's not that's not good. Good nowadays is that when people see other people do things like that and people get away with it, they feel like that's the right thing to do, and that's wrong. That is not the right thing to do. So I would say that is a learned behavior. That is something that us as mentors and men needs to sit down and talk to our young men about. That's not what you do to young ladies. That's not how you treat young ladies. And that's a problem, and that's still a problem today. I see that a whole lot. How the young men, how they talk to young ladies in the whole 9 yards. And like I said, a lot of these young ladies allow that, and they shouldn't.
Wow.
And by allowing that and other people seeing that, they feel like that's the right thing to do, and it's not. It's wrong.
Wow, Dr. Levette, how did you prevent it yourself from adopting that type of behavior, and how have you been helping those coming up after you?
Well, I say for me, I think what happens a lot of times is that we use that term that you are a product of your environment. So if you're in an environment where you're raised and you see a woman being disrespected, you're gonna think that that's okay. The other part of that is that if you see it being done and then you grow up and start doing it and thinking it's cool, then you'll learn real quickly that in today's world, it's not as acceptable. I mean, you got some women now, they'll come back at you just as hard as you come at them. And so, and then, the other piece is, yeah, some women think that that's cool for them. They think if a guy isn't, talking to her harsh and all of that stuff, they think sometimes he's soft. I ran across a TikTok not too long ago, and on that TikTok, this girl was like, yeah, I want a dude that can tell me to shut the F up and, and go sit down somewhere. And then you're inviting that disrespect. So it kind of can go both ways depending on, on how that particular young man is. So it's what I think he's raised in, what he see, what is being modeled before him that allows you to, because I know growing up for me, it was more, I didn't see my dad put my hand on my mom. I didn't see him talk to her any kind of way. So it wasn't a struggle for me. So I learned not to do it as well. So I think it goes down to being a product of your environment.
So good. So good. I know Deacon Dan, I know around the church, there's no disrespect. Women aren't disrespected around the church.
I'm glad you gave him that one.
Well, being around church, I have a lot of young men, and as deacons, we stand out front, we greet our members, and some members bring when drive up and bring the wives to the front door.
Yep.
If they don't get out, then Deacon Dan gonna say something to them.
Come on now.
Okay. I tell them, hey, wait a minute, hold up, no, the wrong concept. Get out, open the door for your wife, girlfriend, significant other.
Yeah.
Let her out. You shut the door, you get back in and go park.
Yeah.
Now, if you go out in the parking lot where I don't see it, it's going to be a different story. But I try to instill that into them. First of all, what I tell them, wait a minute, you respect young ladies, don't disrespect them because you disrespect yourself.
Yeah.
Like I say, in their book, you got to like yourself.
Yeah.
You got to respect yourself. So if I don't respect myself, I know I'm going to have a problem respecting young ladies.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, that one hit because I didn't see my dad open doors for a mom, but it wasn't no disrespect.
Wow.
No, and no type of profanity used as they talked. He wasn't a man that would raise his voice when during conversation. And sometimes my mom be raising her voice, and one thing took me somewhere he was going, and she told him, he told her, he called her Shorty. Shorty, you can jump high as this house, but I'm still going. So, I mean, it wasn't no disrespect, but that's how he told her. So and when he told her that, she told her, say, you know what, that really calmed me down because I'm trying to tell him what he can and cannot do, and then he just let me know that he's gonna do it. Wasn't nothing bad, it's just places he wants to go. Yep. And I'll be something like this. We don't have him here no more. It's the dog track. He just loves to go to the dog track. So anyway, but I think if a young man respects himself, you shouldn't have too much problem in being disrespectful for young ladies.
Yeah.
But as men, as we see things, we need to let them know this is what you should do or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And I'll tell my sons, I'll tell my church sons, hey, no, we ain't gonna do this today or tomorrow. Yeah. Learn how to respect them. Yeah. And then what I do to them also, if they do it, once they get out and let them out, close the door, I step out and I say, man, you know what? I am so proud of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
I am so proud of you. And the only thing he can do is put a smile on his face.
That's good.
Because they know me. Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. And if you are in the comment section and you have a question for these guys, go ahead and put the question up there. We want to know. We're talking about unhealthy habits to avoid for young men. Now, how many of you had that sit-down conversation with your son or grandson or nephews or some of the guys at the church or some of the guys at school with coaching, and you can recall the conversation of young man, please note, no means no. Hello. No means no. How many of you recall that conversation? Had you ever had that conversation, Dr. Levette? Had you ever had that conversation? No means no. Did you go there?
Yeah. I mean, many times, because if you don't teach that, we are creatures of habit. We creatures of repetition. That's what the term I want to use. And the more you model before them, knowing that certain things is not acceptable, the more you model that, the more they'll pick up to know that that's not acceptable, and they'll grow into that. But if you let some things go, it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back on them as they grow in life. So you gotta, when you telling them no is no, you gotta be intentional in telling them no is no. You gotta tell them. Picking good friends. If you see guys that's hanging out and they smoking or they drinking, they cursing and running around doing crazy stuff, you got to tell them, no, you're not going to hang around them. You're not going to do that, because what happens is that starts then developing a habit in you. And we sometimes people be like, oh, they just boys being boys. No, that's not the case. We can't let that statement right there get out of hand. Because that statement can get out of hand when we use that statement. So yeah, no mean no.
Yeah. Wow, Dr. Wilborn, let's talk about that. Did you have a conversation? I know you're young. Your son's getting a lot of attention. He's fast on the track. He's nationally recognized as one of the best. And so there's a lot of ladies. He'll be like, hey man, I got this gold medal. You better give it to me.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. And it's a good thing that my 16-year-old Christian that does run track, he's not even into no women right now at all.
Yeah.
He's all into his studies. He's all into trying to make it to the next level. So I'm glad, I thank God for that. Now we're talking about my other two boys a little bit. It's a different subject. They're older or whatever, but I have had talks with them in regards to females and, how to treat them. And if it ever comes to a point where they get to that part about the no means no, that's what you go with. You do not force, you do not take anything. Once a woman tell you, I don't want to be bothered, stop, no, that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
There's no conversation in between. So I just had to let them, know that. But yeah, I've had that conversation with my boys, and believe it or not, I have a 37-year-old. Well, he'll be 37. Then I got a 27. Christian will be 17. My two oldest don't even have kids, not yet.
Right, so. Right. Listen. I'm gonna ask this to Deacon Dan. Deacon Dan, I was about 21 years old. I got a lot of stories, huh? I was about 21, and Dr. Levette, we went out to dinner, and after dinner, and had some drinks and everything. I had my hotel room key because I couldn't take her back home. I live with my mom. Had my hotel room key, and we're doing all the stuff. She was totally naked, and then she said no. I said, okay, give me the remote. Let's watch TV. Totally naked. She said, no, I don't want to. And I said, okay, pass me the remote. I started watching TV. I told my homeboys the next day. They said, you got to be kidding me.
I know that.
I said, no means no. You've been in law enforcement over the years. Talk about young men who find themselves almost on that level of edge, but then have to have that level of discipline to know, hey, did she say no? Because somewhere along the line, our school had these officers came to our school, and they was like, hey, no means no. And that police chief, when he said that, the light bulb went on in my head, and I did a lot of wrong things in the world. But one of them wasn't that one. If you said no, I don't care if I already paid for the hotel room, but you're naked. Okay, God bless you. Let's watch a movie.
Well, that showed that you had good discipline.
Yeah, he did.
That shows that you didn't want to go somewhere that you didn't want to go to.
Correct.
And that going to that, I'm just like you said, if she say no, hey, and when the case is at no, I told him no.
Yeah.
Did you? Yes, you did. Tell me. Well, why you kept going? Well, you know, I spent all this money. I say, well, hey, you spent all this money, so what that mean? You spent money so she can have a good time. It wasn't you spent money so you can receive a body.
Yeah.
So you got to have that respect about yourself. You got to have that self-control again, and then say no, let it go. Yeah. Because in the event that you would had to force it on or whatever, that could put you in the jail.
Straight up. Straight up.
You don't want to be. You don't want to be one of them permanent resident downtown, as I call them. Yeah. You don't want to go that way. Jail, like I always tell the fellas, say, "Hey man, jail is real."
Yeah. Coach Della Major says, no. She say, let me read what she said. I love what her answer. She says, no means no, but she was not right. She was definitely not right. But you are so right. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about influences and bad habits when it comes to influences. Is it an intentional habit that a young man must look into about his association, his friends, and how risky it is to hang with the wrong people? I mean, there are some people, Deacon Dan, it wasn't them who did anything, but they have this attraction to bad company. It's like, yeah, you didn't do nothing wrong, but you was holding the bag. You were in the car. You know what I mean? What you got to say about that, Deacon Dan? And we're going to go to Dr. Levette, and then.
Well, when you do something wrong, you with that person, you might have not did anything, but you accomplice. You're sitting there, you allow him to go and do something. We had one guy. I just politely told the guy, I said, "Well, you saw what he was doing. Why didn't you just leave him?" Well, that's my buddy. Mm-hmm. Your buddy got you and him in trouble. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you're gonna have to learn to do. If you got your buddy, I'll put it like this: a buddy wouldn't cause me to go to jail or get me in trouble. A real buddy.
Yeah.
But if he done picked up bad habits, he's trying to instill those habits into me. And if I don't have enough sense to realize that, hey, I can get in trouble. So it's going to be one or two things. I'm going to depart from him, or I'm going to let him know. And if he don't change up, then I got to get him out of my comfort zone, get him out of my friendship. So he's really won't be I wouldn't call him a buddy.
Right. Wow. I would not call him my buddy. What do you say, Dr. Levette?
Hey, I say it this way. You know, growing up, I was always told, don't let your friends choose you. You choose your friends. And if you use the right, you use the right teachings that you've been given to choose your friends, then you'll choose good friends. If you want to go with the in crowd or be part of what's, the ones that think they're popular and all of that, then that's what you're going to choose and that's what you're going to become. So I always say, be wise, be very wise, use some wisdom. And the wisdom a lot of time will come from those that are mentors, or that is that uncle, or that, that father, that uncle, that cousin, somebody, that male figure that can kind of help guide you and lead you in the right ways of life and knowing the right things to do. Because if you don't pay attention to the type of friends you hang around, you can easily find yourself in trouble. I mean, it's like, it don't take, like that statement, it only takes 1 second to ruin your life or your good reputation. That's true. It only takes 1 second to make a bad mistake and make a bad choice. So, and a lot of times, if you're around unhealthy people or unhealthy friends that do a lot of bad behaviors, you'll tend to pick up those behaviors. So yeah, stay away from those behaviors. Stay away from those behaviors and stay away from those friends. They are good friends. A friend is only a friend if they're part of your success in life. They're not a friend if they're not part of growing you into success.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about unhealthy habits to avoid, more specifically to young men. And we're wanting to challenge young men everywhere to start looking at their behaviors and start making the necessary adjustments to ensure that your habits are not creating a negative outcome in your life. You desire better, but your practice doesn't reflect that. Let me ask you guys this. There is a celebrity, a popular guy, 12 kids with 12 different ladies, I think it is. And I mean, he is very open about it. Let's talk about the unhealthy practice there, the unhealthy habits there. We live in a world gone wild kind of society, and the principles we once lived up to and had pride to stand up for appear to be going outside, and it's sort of like it's being thrown out. I want to start with you, Dr. Levette. What's your view on somebody just openly having babies everywhere, just slinging it all over the place and just impregnating everybody and okay with it? What do you say to a young man who's starting to either lean in that type of way, or the young women who are okay with a guy who shows up with that type of behavior?
Well, first of all, there are consequences to your actions. So if you're out there, particularly if you growing into being some form of celebrity, look at all of that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you a whole lot of even the money you make and and even your reputation, because sometimes you can get labeled more as the guy who has 12 children than you can be labeled as the guy who can play great basketball or can catch a football. So growing up in life, you always have those choices that understanding that, if you start having multiple partners, that's a way to quickly have multiple children. And a lot of that comes from young men not understanding their sexual nature, and understanding what it is that they're supposed, how they supposed to go about, and what the importance of sex, because sex can have a lot of bad consequences just as well as the good consequences. If the good consequences only come if it's done right, the bad consequences, you can come up with diseases. There are unwanted pregnancies. unwanted pregnancy, not wanted ones, unwanted pregnancies. Those are the bad ones sometimes, because that leads to sometimes single mothers, that lead to you not being engaged, you questioning whether that's your child or not. So it's a lot that go into that. But I just say for someone, hey, don't go down that road. That ain't gonna make you. That's not gonna make you no better person. Just because you have a bunch of kids, that ain't gonna make you a man.
Well, what do you have to say about that, Deacon Dan?
Well, I put it like this. You take this celebrity, you really don't understand. Somebody need to sit down to him and talk to him and say, hey, these ladies are having babies from you because you're going to have to take care of the babies for 18 years or more. So why are you not keeping yourself protected in dealing with all these different sexual partners? 12? Hey, 12 children? Hey, that's quite a bit. Some lump of money gonna come out your paycheck. And it ain't gonna be on the young lady. It ain't gonna be on you. The judge will tell you, okay, you're gonna pay X amount of dollars. If it's $30,000 a year, $5,000 a month, you got to pay it. I'll go to jail. But something that I like to instill in young men, hey, and I told my sons this, look here, make a baby, you're gonna take care of it. You make 2 babies, you're gonna double up. And that means that you're going to have to take care. You're going to find your job to be able to pay for all expenses, medical and whatever. So you think about that. If you want to take your money and put it all towards different children from different mamas, which the mama really don't care nothing about you. She done got what she want. She has a baby and she got your money. So where you got yourself at now? But for young men that are not like that, with these different sexual partners, I know one guy he bragged about he got 10 children. Wow. And I asked him, I said, you got 10? I say, which one are yours? He looked at, what you mean? All of them. I said, you sure? I said, my thing I'm telling you, son, is that you got 10 children from 10 different women. What have you accomplished by being in that way? Child support, jail, whatever you want to do, but you're going to have to take care of your children. So if you're going to be a father, be a father. If you're going to be a baby maker, then you need to get out of the race. And that's what I tell them.
Wow. Dr. Wilborn, when you think about the emotional impact of, okay, even for the guy who decided I'm going to financially fund this child and I'm okay with whatever expense they push my way in regards to me having children everywhere. Let's talk about this for the guys who think that's cool and realizing that it's beyond actually even funding the child. It's actually, there's an emotional, psychological, just all kinds of undergirding that is needed for a child in having the dad present. What's your view there?
My view on that is, for one, you're setting a bad example. That's number one. You're supposed to be an upstanding, an outstanding celebrity or someone a lot of people are paying attention to. You're on social media, you're on TV, you're all around the world. People are watching this. You're setting a bad example. That's the first thing. You're supposed to be a father. How is that setting an example for all the kids that you're having when they grow up and they see this? Is that setting a good example? And when are you going to have time to be there with your kids? You said they had 12 kids with 12 different women? I guarantee all 12 different women don't live in the same state. I guarantee that. So if that's the case, when are you going to have time to even see your kids or be around your kids? So to me, that's one of the things that I would think of, the most. I know as a dad, you should be there. It's not just about the money that you're going to give the kids or whatever, or the money that you're going to send to the mother of the kids. But what about being there for them, physically, being there for them emotionally, being a father to them? So that is a red flag, and it's a big mistake. And I would say to anybody that look at this, that's not the thing to do. That's not the right thing to do. Just like Dr. Levette, has said, alluded to earlier. You need to be there. Not only that, you can catch diseases left and right. And how do you know all of those kids are your kids?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
So good. So good. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about unhealthy habits to avoid. This is Build Your Best Life. This platform is all about conversation about helping young men, helping mothers with sons. And our goal with this conversation every first Saturday or second Saturday?
Second Saturday.
Come on. See, I just want to make sure you guys were in it, man. I want to make sure you know. Okay, it's second Saturday. Every second Saturday, we're here talking about subject matters that really need to look at. So I want to ask Dr. Levette this question, Dr. Levette. You know, a lot of young men experiment with drugs. They experiment with alcohol, not realizing the negative impact that it has on their future. What's your view there?
Well, experimentation can lead to habits. Even experimenting, sometimes, especially when you're talking about drugs, you experiment one time with a drug and you can get hooked. I mean, because of that so-called feeling that it gives you, you can be hooked, and you can be, you know, and now you're an addict. You can become an addict just from an experimentation. So understanding the things that you shouldn't be experimenting with, especially until you're old enough to know, like even drinking alcohol, till you really know the effects of alcohol. 13 and 14 years old trying to drink alcohol, it's going to have a different effect on you than, say, someone that's 40 or 45 years old. So when you start if you start that habit, especially at a young age, you know, it's going to develop into an uncontrollable habit. And then it's going to get out of control. And then before you know it, your life going to be in a downward spiral because you had no, you know, and go back to what Deacon Dan said earlier. It's that self-control. You don't have that self-control that can keep you moving in a positive direction. So yeah, those experimenting with alcohol and drugs can lead down the wrong road real quickly. And a lot of times you will end up making a lot of bad decisions, a lot of bad choices. You do a lot of stuff to get, because you have to provide for your habit. And if you young, you 15, 16 years old, you ain't probably you don't have a job. So guess what? You probably out there stealing and doing everything you can to get so you can feed your habit. So that's why just don't even experiment with it. We're telling you right here, don't experiment with something that you don't know what it's going to do to you. Ask somebody, ask the man that you trust, that you really trust. Ask the man that, hey, you know, some of my friends want me to try smoking a blunt, so they can tell you, hey, this is what's going to happen. You start doing that, it can lead to lung cancer. There's a lot of things that can happen. So it's just, you know, just making sure you putting yourself in a good position to not make the mistakes that can cause you a lifetime of trouble.
Wow. Deacon Dan, in law enforcement and in ministry, a lot of times we see the negative impact. A lot of people come to church and they're addicted, and it started off with an experiment. In law enforcement, I bet you would have seen them who is experimenting, and it really negatively impacted their life. What do you have to say about this whole experimenting with drugs and alcohol?
Experimenting with drugs and alcohol, one of the things you don't want to do, you really don't want to experiment with them. I'll tell you, when you know, I talked about drinking alcohol, my alcohol tastes like a Coca-Cola. You know, I put just a little in there. If I want to mix it, mingle in, I want to be in with society with the boys, I got a little. They see me pour a little alcohol, but I might chase it down with a lot of Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah.
And sip on it all night long.
Yeah.
So I mean, these alcohol and drugs is not positive if you're using, well, say for instance, occasionally you drink a drink, but you want to do it at a young age. You want to do it where you can have some understanding about alcohol, because it can impair you, especially in driving or whatever. I had a young man that was involved in an accident. He's running 90 miles an hour, 45 miles on. But what had told me, the paramedics said, we smell alcohol. Okay, I can judge the speed, because normally when you hit something, at 90 miles an hour, your speedometer is gonna break. So I can judge, I can investigate the speed, and before it's drugs, I'll be like this. When they come out with that crack, cocaine, I've seen so many people, I mean, mostly white, that was got hooked on this stuff because of the ingredients they had in it. And knowing what crack did to people, it got into their brain, and what they was doing, they was trying to get that same high they got the first time. It never could acquire. So it really messed up their system. That's why I say, fentanyl and all these new drugs they coming out with. Fentanyl killing people. Now you got the police equipped with this type of drug. They can, if you OD, they give you something that might bring you back. Depends on how far you're going. But you got to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It can hurt you. It can impair your mind and your brain. You just don't realize what it does to you. Young man I stopped told me he got to do what he got to do. And I figure right now, you done been on drugs, but his main thing, he lost his mama. And then he started on drugs. Young man. This guy probably about 21, 22 years old. And so this is what I'm saying. They start on these drugs, and another situation, young boy went to FAM, and some kind of way they gave him drugs. Smart young man. This guy was something like a 4.1, 4.2 average. But they gave him some drugs. They messed him up real bad. Yeah. And he eventually ended up they say he stepped out in front of the car. But, he got ran over. He got killed, accident. But that you might know, he's come up to the church all the time.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But it's impair you. Alcohol and drugs can impair your mind, your vision, or whatever you're going. It can make you crazy. So you really don't want to, deal with that.
So good. Thank you for sharing that, Deacon Dan. Dr. Wilborn, I want to talk about this. Coach Delamager referred to internal hurt, the unaddressed issues that sometimes move young men to these addictive behaviors like alcohol and drugs. Let's talk about the hidden hurt and sometimes the peer pressure, because she referred to that as well. Both of those things, I told my son the other day, I said, hey man, listen, I was in a gang and all my friends smoked drugs, but I was a rare guy who could stand up to 100 dudes and say, well, y'all don't play with me, but I don't smoke. And I didn't smoke, but I saw a bunch of guys came in the gang with us, young bucks wanting to fit in, and they started smoking, choking, and drinking and vomiting and messed up. And I was like, what in the world? But they just never knew themselves because oftentimes there was internal stuff they had not addressed, and the peer pressure from the external factors. You've dealt with a lot of athletes. You've dealt with raising your voice. What's your view there?
You know what? Now that you mention it, and I was looking at what Coach Delamager was saying, it is peer pressure. One thing is peer pressure. Then another thing is you don't know what they're going through behind closed doors. A lot of people may be going through a whole lot of things that's turning them taking drugs and the whole 9 yards. I know when I was young, when I was in high school, I played basketball in high school, and most of my friends that was on the team, they were either drinking or smoking. And go ahead.
Were you a starter?
Oh yeah, I was no bench rider. Thank God, I was not a bench rider.
I
throw something in there like that, yeah. But the guys that I was before and after the game, they were either drinking or they were smoking, and I used to hang with those guys, and they tried to get me to do it. And thank God that I was very, very sturdy and steadfast in what I believed in. I didn't let anyone tell me or make me do anything that I didn't want to do, and that's how I was raised. Till today, I've never put a cigarette in my mouth. I never tried a blunt. I never tried marijuana or anything like that. I tried beer once in my life. Beer, just once. I didn't like the taste of it. And I don't smoke. And my thing is, I'm not saying that, you should not do that, but do that responsibly. But as a young adult, I'm saying that you shouldn't do that. That's what I'm saying. But in my book that I wrote, The Observation of Bullying and Its Effects, we talked about that a lot. And a lot in that book alludes to the fact that it's a lot of things going on in people's lives that we don't know about, them to smoking, turn them to doing drugs. So we have to know the background and the root of the problem.
So good, so good. Just so you know, hey man, I was on the street, but I ain't never smoked. I ain't never do no cigarette. I know, I can see Dr. Levette probably was trying them cigarette back in the day.
Yeah, he looked like he was one of them cool dudes back then.
Oh, yeah, I used to smoke those Newports. I was on them Newports back in the Army, them early Army days.
but let's talk about this, guys, as we close out our talk. Thank you so much for giving us your time on this Saturday morning. It's always a joy to come and connect with you guys. Coach Deborah is doing such a phenomenal job in being consistent in providing content like this. This is a rare platform. Man, she is consistently delivering content, and this stuff is here forever. Okay, our grandsons, great grandsons, and so forth will be able to go digitally and watch what we're about to say. And so I'm really interested in hearing what closing advice you would give to young men to avoid negative habits that can move them away from building their best lives. All of us have potential. Potential unlimited is within us. But the truth is, the habits we create can hinder us from maximizing our potential. I want to start with Deacon Dan. What's your closing advice to young men today? We believe that an instruction given today can change a young man's destiny tomorrow. So please share your closing thoughts.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to do the advertisement.
Yeah.
This book here.
Come on.
Parents. So young men, get this book and read it.
Yeah.
This has got some very good information in it. So just take the book, Build Your Best Life by Coach Deborah D. Smith. Great book. Now, to the young men, I'm going to give you one tip. Like you all tell me, well, marijuana won't hurt you. Let me give you an understanding about marijuana. Marijuana stays in your system longer than cocaine. Especially if if you want a job and they say, well, we got to test you. Okay, you don't want to smoke marijuana last week, but it's still in your system.
Right.
Possibility. You're looking at 72 hours or more before you can get out your system. So if you want to keep a job, a lot of jobs require drug testing, especially if you want to be trucker and transportation and stuff like that. You got to be tested. So my thing to you, young men, is do not get yourself involved with something that you don't know nothing about. I think it's better to study up on stuff. If somebody say, hey, man, let's try marijuana. Well, let me check it out. Let me study on it. Let me see what my effects are going to be to my body. Not only your body, what the effects are going to be to your life.
Yeah. Because
I've seen a lot of people lose some good jobs due to the fact they had that in their system. Yeah. And but my thing is, hey, you realize what you're doing. Be responsible. Be able to control yourselves and what you're doing in life with drugs, with alcohol. Anything that you're going to put in your system, please check it out before you put it in your system. Find out what's in it. And just don't take any type of drugs from your friends or whatever, because what they're putting in drugs today is ridiculous.
Wow.
Now, back when I was in the 80-something, I was involved with this drug task force. We had to learn everything about a drug. And I saw some ugly drugs. I know some of y'all might not even. I even had the marijuana with the like a bottom of a shoe. It was just black. Wow. But what I'm saying is, learn what you gonna put in your system. Know about it. It's just like your anything medical that you get from the doctor. Find out about it. Read the side effects or whatever it causes on you. Same way with drugs. Just learn to know about what you're taking.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you, sir. Dr. Levette, what do you have to say to us in closing?
Well, I'll say a couple of things real quickly. One, pick your friends wisely. Understand that you don't have to fit in to be somebody important. You don't have to fit into the wrong crowd to make yourself feel more important and to be accepted in society and in life. Because that's a big thing, is that a lot of times kids choose the bad crowd is because they feel like they're more accepted than they are in other crowds where there's no popularity to being the quiet guy, the guy that's making good grades and doing the right things. Another thing is understanding that your consequences, that there are consequences to everything you do. There can be good and they can be bad. It just depends on the choices that you make at that time. If you don't make the right choices and the right decisions, then the consequences are going to be bad. They're going to be grave, you know, to your future. And then also, this is a big one right here, and it goes back. And I'm gonna throw another plug for the book. So if you get this book right here, and I believe it's in chapter 6, talks about how to avoid it's I think it's how to avoid mistakes, how to avoid crazy mistakes. I think it is. How do you avoid a crazy mistakes? And in there, it talks about coming up and creating with a daily affirmation of who you are. Yeah. If you want to be somebody good, speak to yourself every day. I love that part of that book where Coach Deborah talks about that affirmation. You have your own daily affirmation. You know, I'm Joseph Levette. I can be anything that I want to be. I'm going to be successful in life. I'm going to grow up and have a great family. I'm going to grow up and do all of the wonderful things. I'm going to grow up and be a good Christian man and raise a family the godly way. You know, that's how I think that's so important. If we could come up with a daily affirmation, you know, and that's something that I'm getting ready to, you know, I'm gonna push to my grandsons. You know, start every day waking up and talking to that mirror, saying who you are to you. Because if you do that in repetition enough, it'll start sinking in, and it'll provide success in life for you. So that's the main 3 things I would say is pick your friends wisely, understand that there's consequences to any of your actions, good or bad, and then creating that daily affirmation that can go a long way in setting you up for a successful life.
So good, so good. Thank you, Dr. Levette. Thank you, Coach Deborah, for those daily affirmation reminders that you push through your platform. So good. Coach Dr. Wilburn, close us out, sir. What do you have to say?
Well, I'm going to say this, and it's going to be quick. Don't do drugs, okay? Don't do them. Simple as the drugs to fit in, to get in. And if you feel like that's something that you must do, before you even do that, please talk to someone. Talk to someone and let them know what's going on. And for everybody that's listening, that's a parent or a mentor or whatever, you see any kind of slight changes in the kids or the young that you are around, sit down and talk to them, because they may be hiding something that's really hurting them. And like a couple of people have said earlier today, you know, you don't know what's going on in these people's lives that's turning them into, you know, doing drugs or smoking marijuana or the whole 9 yards. So I would say, watch out for signs and talk to someone. Just say no to drugs.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to Build Your Best Life Conversation with the Guys. We do this every month. Do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. And then watch this. If you're on Facebook, please go ahead and press that like button. So every time Build Your Best Life shows up online, you'll get a chance to watch all of these different types of conversations and talks that Coach Deborah has on her platform. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage you also to consider becoming a financial partner with Build Your Best Life. This organization is helping young men, not only here in the United States, but around the world. It's starting to tap into other nations. And so here's what she's going to need. She's going to need partners. She's going to need friends. $10 a month, $20 a month, $50 a month. Make a commitment to support an idea that you believe can help generations to come. I think that's a good thing. I am grateful to be a part of this platform. Gentlemen, today was really another great talk. Thank you so much. You guys had your book accessible. Next time, I'm going to have my book accessible. Let's see that book again. Come on. Let's see that book. Listen, if you haven't got your copy of the book, get your copy of the book. She'll sign the book if you go to the website She'll sign the book to you. If you become a financial partner of $25 or $50 or more, I'll go ahead and challenge Coach Deborah to send you a signed copy because you have chosen to become a $50 a month partner. We'll send you a complimentary copy of the book. I'm a board member. I think I could say that. And so we love our partners here at Build Your Best Life. Guys, today was a great talk. You guys are amazing. Until next month, have a great day, guys.
All right.
Everybody.